All right, guys, welcome back to the Buck Fever podcast. I'm Noah. This is Jake. And I guess let's just get right into it because we have a lot to talk about today. First and foremost, little thing that happened on September 18th, opening day of Wisconsin bow season. It turned out to be a pretty good day for us. So
yeah, definitely the best day in the woods for me in a long time. 4 years actually since I shot a buck, and I shot this deer, which when we pop the picture up, you're probably not going to believe it, but this is him from the year before. Call him Blade Runner.
Well, and he broke that side off.
Yeah, I think we got a picture of him in velvet. I can send you
Yeah.
that. We can throw up there, but this is him as a 3.5, give or take. We're not really sure. It's hard to tell. Just because his bases are so small. But this was him. We called him Blade Runner. As you can see, it just wraps around. This was the exact same side, same way, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Touched in front. And I'm pretty sure that's how he broke this in velvet. Trying to get the velvet off, and he couldn't get his horn between the tree.
Right.
So we were watching this deer for a while. Found the shed. That was pretty cool. Then summer rolled around. We started getting pictures of some pretty good deer. Best deer we've had in a while. I noticed this deer as he was getting bigger and bigger. I'm like, he looks familiar. And sure enough, we got one picture of him wrapping around front. I'm like, oh, yep, that's Blade Runner. And
yeah, you can't really deny it. It's for sure him. And then seeing him, obviously, once you got him, it's like, yeah, that's the same deer for sure.
So the 18th rolls around. We're running late as usual up to the land and quick check cameras. It's hot. It's probably 75.
It was hot that day.
Way too hot to be out there. And we checked the cameras. I'm looking at them, and yeah, there's a lot of good deer around. And I go to our food plot in the middle of the woods. We call it the lounge. So it's a pretty small food plot.
It is.
Quarter of an acre, maybe?
If that, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty small. We're going to make it bigger this spring, but we call it the lounge because it's just surrounded by bedding. Thick buckthorn all over the place. That's where we find all these sheds. So you can only hunt it with an east wind. You gotta be, because if your wind starts swirling or you get the wrong wind, you're busted. So luckily, I think it was a southeast.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was east southeast, so it was mostly east, and it was pretty light, like 7 or 8 miles an hour. So I'm like, I asked my dad and uncle if they cared if I went in there. I gotta go ahead. And this deer, he was in there, coming in kind of consistently every probably 3-4 days in there, right at shooting light. Which was 7:30 at the time?
Yeah, in September it's late.
7:30ish.
Yeah.
So I get in there and oh my goodness, I'm like, I didn't think I was gonna see a deer. It's hot, I'm sweaty. I walked in with a t-shirt. I'm just drenched in sweat on the way in. I can't find the trail. We rake the trail because it's kind of like would you say it's hardwoods over there? Where there's a bunch of leaves.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of leaves, and we raked the trail, and I couldn't find it. So I'm just crunching leaves all the way in, and I'm like, oh, man. So, and then when I get there, there's no bull rope. No bull rope, no bull hanger, so I had to climb up the stand with my bow. I got my backpack with all the camera gear, so that's pretty heavy. I get up there, and thankfully I had a double set hung. So I put my bow on there, climbed into the tree, and this tree you gotta the stand's on this side and then the ladder's on the back side. You gotta climb the tree branches around to get into it. So I finally get up there. I forgot my harness. Thankfully my uncle had one. So after that's all set up, I get there and I'm sweating, wiping my face off. Probably smell not like I should. And I get up there and I'm like, I am not gonna see a deer. Not gonna see a deer. And that's probably 4:30.
Yeah.
4:35.
Maybe.
So I get up there and I'm like, okay, I'm settled down. 5:30, doe and 2 fawns come up to the plot and start eating. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a pretty good sign. They're eating, they're milling around, they're coming and going, and time's going by. It's about 6:20-ish. I'm sitting there, and I was looking over to the south. I thought I heard something over there, and all of a sudden I hear a twig snap to my north, probably 60 yards off the plot. And I look over, and Blade Runner standing right there. I'm like, oh boy. So then I get the shakes going. My legs are going crazy.
Well, you were standing, weren't you?
Well, so as soon as I saw him, I tried to stand up as quick as I could.
That's what it was.
Not as quick as I could, but before he saw me.
Right.
And that stand's pretty well hid. It's probably 25 foot up in a pine tree. So we're hid, and they didn't know I was there. So I got up there, my legs are going. I couldn't stop, but he was smart. He knew. He stood at the edge of that plot for about 5 minutes before he came in. He looked around. He kept looking. Thankfully, the wind was in my favor, and finally starts making his way in. I'm getting the camera all set up. My GoPro's not working. I finally get the camera where I think he's gonna come, and then he's walking. And he kind of cuts off. I'm like, uh-oh. He probably wouldn't have walked through that way. I think he was just stopping to munch on a branch. So I quick put it over there. I'm like, well, he's at like 15 yards, maybe slightly quartering away. So I draw back, settle in. I'm like, okay, camera's on him. Picks his head up. I find the back shoulder, that crease, go right behind it, and tuck it in there. And I hear the whack, just the expandable of the rage, just.
Yeah, it was a perfect shot. There was no doubt.
And he mule kicked, and I could see blood instantly just pour out of him.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's always doubt. You're always like, oh, no, I don't know if it's a good shot. And I watched the film a little bit, and I sent it to my dad and uncles, and my Uncle Todd's really good with that. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's a pretty good shot. And,
I mean, once you can see the footage, it's like, yeah. There's...
And when he mule kicks like that, and so I get down, I go pick my dad up, because I want to go recover this deer in light. So it's like 6:30 maybe, so we probably got an hour. Sat till 7. I went down, checked the initial spot. There's pretty good blood spraying. I could see it up a ways. Quick got my dad on the four-wheeler. And we're coming back on the four-wheeler, and right where Blade Runner came from, we have another stand. Stubbs, the one my cousin ended up shooting with the gun, was standing in the food plot, or standing in right there, and so that was pretty cool. But anyway, we get in there, we're tracking him. He probably went 75 yards, maybe, piled up. Biggest deer I've ever shot, body and horn. He was field dressed at 227, so he was probably 260, 270 with the guts in him. 155 and 6/8. So that, yeah, you probably wouldn't believe it. Out of this deer, he probably put on close to 50 inches in a year, but it was him. And we'll backtrack a little bit. So I shoot this deer, and I call my dad right away. And the next person I got calls Noah. Call Noah. He's not answering. He's up in Sparta, not the best service. I don't have the best service unless you're closer to me. He's probably 2 hours and 45 minutes away from me. So I'm calling him, nothing's going through. And I'm like freaking out. I just shot the biggest deer in my life. And so I get down out of the stand, I finally get a hold of him. He's like, nah. He's like, as soon as I'm done hunting, I'm coming down. So, yeah, we find the deer, take some really cool pictures. It's really cool. My dad and uncle were there for me. Me and Noah at the gas station, and they all come up, and it was a good time. Definitely an experience I'll never forget. And
yeah, after that, I was like, all right, I'm quitting. I'm going to go see that deer, and I won't hunt the next day, and we'll just take that time off. But
yeah, and it was extremely hot the next day, too, so we let it hang at the cabin, packed full of ice. It was fine. My dad and Uncle Randy had to stay up at the cabin, or at the farm. I don't know what I think they're helping the farmer out. Yeah. And Noah thankfully came up, and we took some pictures, did some interviews the next morning. Then he came home, and we cut it all up and quartered it and caped it. So it was nice to have you there, because I've never caped one by myself, and it was really hot, so we had to get it done. But I've never seen so much fat on a deer for so early in the year.
Yeah, I mean, he was just solid.
Yeah, like bulky.
Just a solid deer. And in the video, you can see his neck.
Yeah, he's all
like the
ruffled
folds
up
in his neck. It looks like he's rutting.
Yeah. It's
opening day.
Yeah, I guess sometimes that is their heaviest weight. They say sometimes that, or is it October?
I don't know. He's got plenty of food around.
Yeah, so there's a ton of food, and he's no pressure, so.
Right. But you can't really understate like the difficulty of getting into that stand, and like the fact that that's probably one of your best stands, but also really risky to hunt.
That's why we hunted it maybe twice.
Right.
Two or three times the last 2 years we've had it there. I finally convinced my dad and uncle to let me put it in there, and it's paid off. They're not so much. I'm more of the run and gun. I like to get in there. I like to get where they're going, because that's the only one of the ways you got to kill them.
Right.
Except for the rut. The rut's a whole different story. We'll get into that later. But early season, you got to get to the food and where they're bedding and where they're traveling from. And if you have water, hunt the water, especially when it's hot, because they're lazy and they'll go to the closest water they can.
Well, because you didn't have a stand in there any years past, right?
No,
in that spot.
Yeah, not this year, but the year before that, you and I put one up in there.
Yeah. So you probably didn't hunt it much there either.
I think I hunted it once, and my dad hunted it once.
Yeah.
Because it's rare to get an east wind.
Right. And then to go in there on opening day, too, most people wouldn't make that decision.
No,
they'd be
it's
like, play it safe.
Yeah. But I knew he was coming in, and it's hard. I had to walk through a bean field across the rows. So the rows are going this way, and I had to come through this way. So that's not quiet. You're just knocking off beans. You're just hitting the beans. Then I had to walk another probably 60 yards into the woods to get to the middle of the woods where this plot is. I mean, it's probably hands down our best stand because it's right in the middle of the woods. To your east, there's a bunch of thick buckthorn.
Right.
And to your south and to your north, it's all bedding. Really, really pines, hardwoods, and it's kind of got some valleys to the south, so they're going to lay in there. And, I mean, it worked perfect.
Yeah, we knew that was going to be a great spot. We found his sheds, I mean, just 20 yards away from where that stand is.
Yeah.
One of them, for sure. The other one, I think, was down further. But the one was not far from where that stand is.
No, I think they were... This one. Was it this one?
I think it was that one was the first one that
this
we
one
found.
And Freaks.
And Freaks were right next to each other.
20 yards off the plot.
Yeah.
Into the woods a little bit.
And they were, what, 5 yards apart?
Yeah.
Maybe not even?
Yeah. So that happened, and then we still had some good bucks from round. 2 or 3 that were still on camera. That were consistent. Yeah. Stubbs and E.T., which both ended up getting shot. We saw it's kind of slower. I hunted pretty hard. Didn't hunt a ton, more so just because I shot that deer.
Right, so now you're only shooting a doe or you're filming somebody else or whatever.
And it was kind of hit and miss, and then we'll get into the doe situation in a little bit, but November 6th, I believe. Yep, November 6th. Another one fell, E.T., and that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, that one was for sure.
So my dad and my uncle were up there that whole week. So the 6th was a Saturday, and my dad and uncle started hunting that like the 30th before that, and they hunted that whole week. And they were seeing E.T. and shooters all week long. Stubbs, E.T., they just could never get shot. And I finally got up there after school. The week of school, I got up there, and I hunted Friday, and we didn't see much until Saturday rolls around, and it's hot.
It was.
It's like 55 degrees again in November. For November 6th, that's kind of unheard of in Wisconsin. And we decided to, my dad was with me, I'm like, let's just go in this gun stand. It was a south wind, not really good for a ton of double sets we have. And I'm like, let's just go sit there. We're not seeing much. It's hot. Bunch of squirrels around us. I brought my bow just because why not? So the squirrel's coming toward us, and you know me, I like to shoot things. So I'm like, I'm gonna shoot this squirrel. He's like, all right, it's pretty early. It's like 5 o'clock, and we still got an hour left. I draw back on the squirrel, or no, I'm sorry, I didn't draw back. I grab my bow because the squirrel's coming, and I look over, and E.T. is coming along the river right at us, and I'm like, okay, panic mode sets, and I quick put my bow down, and I'm like, dead. And I'm like, don't move, because he's coming right at us. And we're in this big gun stand that we have with this tree's huge.
Yeah.
It's got branches going everywhere. And so I'm like, here he comes. I grab the camera, and he gets behind the tree. I'm like, all right, stand up. We stand up, and this is probably all within 50 seconds from when we saw him to when we shot him. He's walking. He's on a mission. He's looking for does. He's coming. He's weaving, and I thought he was going to come this way. I'm like, Dad, shoot this way. He's like, no, shoot this way. We're like going back and forth for a little bit, and then he's gonna leave because I thought he was gonna come this way, and he gets up on this knob. I'm like, okay, shoot! Quick, put the camera on him, and wasn't the greatest shot. Could have been worse. He was quartering away pretty hard, but my dad put it right through the esophagus, and he ran. I think he hit an artery too, and he ran 70 yards and died. We were unsure of where it hit, but after looking at the footage, it was clear. And then we got down there, I found blood right away. But that just kind of goes to show when you use expandables, at least us, we're a firm believer in the Rage hypodermic, and it put a hole. I mean, the deer that I shot, Blade Runner, had a hole this big, and even my dad's was really good size.
Right.
It helps with killing these deer. And
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really the spot that you want to aim.
No, you're not
with
trying
a
to
bow.
aim there. No.
I mean, some people do with a gun.
Yeah.
Some people shoot them in the neck or the head with a gun, especially if it's a doe. But
Yeah.
I mean, it ended up dying as humanely as
It was quick.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been like
20 seconds. He was.
You put it right in the perfect spot, and they probably ran the same distance, died the same, and I mean, both shots ended up being very ethical. Yeah. Everything worked out, but I remember that was like, you text me, say your dad shot E.T., then we're on the phone, whatever, and it just, I remember because I was like super excited, and then I hear your voice, and I could immediately tell that you were not excited, that things were not great for some reason, and then you didn't even know if he hit him. You thought maybe you just gave him a little haircut, because you could see the hair go.
I saw when he shot, I saw a patch of hair kind of like fly off. I'm like, oh,
right.
No, he just buzzed him and took some hair off.
And you can see in the video, like you say, oh, where did you shoot him? And Terry says, I think I got him in the neck, and you say, me too. So you thought that's where it was, but you weren't sure. Then you checked the video, then you're still not sure. But as soon as you got on the ground and found all that blood, then it was like...
I knew that. I told my dad, I said, because it was plenty early. I texted my uncle a picture of the blood we find. And he's like, it's early. If it's not good blood, back out. So we get down there. Before we get down there, I say, if we find blood, he's dead. And if we don't find anything, he's still alive. Because if you hit him, if he hit him where we thought he hit him, he wasn't going far because we were right, hit him in the artery and the esophagus. But if you miss him, that deer's fine. But another little tip I learned, and I've kind of learned after shooting some deer and seeing deer get shot, that when he ran away, he tucked his tail. He wasn't running with his tail up. Like, it was tucked and he was going. So I'm like, after I watched the video, I kind of figured, like, as if he runs away with his tail up, he's just spooked. But he ran away with his tail tucked. So I'm like, okay, that's a good sign because he's probably hurting. Sure enough, we get down there and the blood is just pumping out. And I'm like, there he is. We go 70 yards and he's laying there.
Right. And you can see then in the video, like, it's hard to tell when you're just in the moment and watching it back on camera, but when you're editing and you can slow it down, you can see he clipped a bunch of it. Like, he really got a good chunk of that neck. Mm-hmm. Not ideal, but I mean, his first buck with a bow in 17 years.
Yeah, and that's why it was kind of like, it was really special. I was with him and got it on film.
Right.
I mean, he was there for my first deer and stuff like that. And so I was 2. Last time we shot a buck, I was 2 years old with the bow, and that's pretty crazy to me, just because of the amount of time and persistence he puts in. And he passes a lot of deer that a lot of people would shoot, just because between us 3 and my uncles, that we kind of made a pact of, it's called quality deer management. We were not shooting. We pick a certain, we'll kind of go through at the beginning of the year and say, we're going to shoot this deer, this deer, this deer, and we'll let the other ones grow. And
right.
Kind of why we shot 3 big deer this year that all scored really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he wasn't trying.
Yeah, he could have shot a bunch of smaller ones, but he was sticking true to it, and I give him a lot of props. Same for my uncle. They'll pass deer, and it's pretty cool that I was there for that in 17 years, and just to be in that moment. Roles reversed. He shot one. My first one I shot when I was 10 years old. November 4th, so that was pretty cool to be when he was with me for that, and I was with him for that.
And then to get it all on camera too. Like, you can always just go back and watch it, and you can relive that. Yeah. We do that all the time with our sturgeon spearing video, because that was such a cool day too. Yeah. Like, just being able to get that on camera is just such a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't change it. I love hunting. I love just being out there when people shoot things and just being with them. When I shoot does, I get excited. I get so excited when I shoot does. My dad shot a doe this year with the gun. I was so excited for him just because it's cool. I enjoy that stuff.
And E.T. ended up being a little bit smaller than you guys thought.
Yeah.
But he's still a super cool buck. I mean, he had all kinds of character.
I think he was a 11 or 12, and he scored, what did we score, man? 118.
118 and some change, I think.
Yeah, which is still a really good deer.
He had, 12.5-inch inside spread?
Yeah, he was super narrow.
So that was the issue, really.
He had like a 9 and his 2s and 3s are like 9 and 7, which is pretty good. And
he was a really good buck. And like, watching him throughout the summer and getting different trail camera pictures, he did really look like he was a mature deer. He was ready to go. So
I mean, we had him all summer. all year.
Well,
He was
and it's
all over
hard.
the
It's hard when
property.
you shoot one that's 155
Yeah.
and then you shoot one that's 118.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's going to look smaller, but that doesn't mean that it was,
Yeah.
you know, a small deer by any means. It was just,
Yeah.
you got lucky enough to shoot that one early on.
Yeah.
I mean, opening day, man, because I remember it was super hot, and I remember getting ready. We're all going out, and I could just feel it. Like, there's just certain times where you can just feel that that's going to happen, and it wasn't like, oh, I know that I'm going to get one, or what. I just knew that somebody was shooting one tonight,
Yeah.
and something good was going to happen. And sure enough, when it did, like, I wasn't surprised at all. I was like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. But then for it to be that deer, and just like all the storylines coming together of finding his sheds, and then you shoot that one on opening day, and all the mistakes that led up to it that you didn't know if you were even going to see a deer that night because all the stuff you forgot and trying to get in there, and you know, just all that coming together. That was such a special time.
It was pretty cool too for us because I mean, Noah and I spent countless hours up there during the summer, planting, checking cameras, hanging sets, cutting branches, moving sets. I mean, we were up there all the time. Any chance we had, we were up there, which is cool because I mean, we both love it. We would, if we could, we'd spend every day out there. So
and it's paying off.
Yeah, it is. That's what's fun to see is when you put in all the work. And then it starts paying off. I mean, we were kind of in a drought there. Like, we weren't...
a little bit.
4 years ago, I shot 2 bucks. And after that, it was kind of few and far between of big deer. Now I think we're starting to finally get them back. You got to get rid of some does, which we'll get into a bit later. But it's also passing the little ones.
Right.
Let them grow, which is hard when your neighbors maybe aren't all on the same idea. But what are you going to do? For the most part, they do. For the most part, we're all shooting bigger deer, so that's cool.
And just everything that we learned, like, in the off season, and just trying to get better at it every single year, even finding the sheds and knowing where they were.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If the best time to prepare for deer hunting is in the spring. Get in there, figure out where they're going, figure out where they're dropping their horns, and figure out their travel pattern. Yeah, cameras help, but we found what did we find? 10 sheds.
It was a lot. Well, and then some like really old deadheads, that died.
I think we found 10 sheds, and 8 of them were right by this food plot, all within 300 yards. You just gotta. So
and we weren't even gonna like. This wasn't like our number one spot. I would say this year that's probably our number one spot to walk through. But we had a different spot.
Then we thought it was money.
Yeah, we thought, we'll go down there. I found that little tiny spike.
You found
on
that
the way in.
Yeah, and then we went across to where we thought where this money spot was, and we found a little year and a half.
We found a little, maybe like 3 points on it.
Yeah.
It was another kind of small one. And so we're like, oh man, we didn't know what was going on. We walked back through, and all of a sudden we find Blade Runners and Freaks, one of each.
Mm-hmm. Then we go back a week later, and we find Freaks' other side, Blade Runner's other side, another good 2.5, and then another year and a half. And it was...
And they were just all in that one spot. I mean, now we know where to go, and then that helped, obviously, for the season, too, knowing where to set up. Mm-hmm. And you still got a whole other side of the road, and we didn't really shed hunt down there a ton.
Just because it's marshy.
Right, it's hard.
They're not going to typically winter down there,
no,
in my opinion.
And it's hard to
it's hard to walk.
Them.
Yeah, they blend in.
Yeah.
Cattails, everything looks the same.
But... yeah, that was. It's safe to say that we're probably going to be shed hunting
quite a bit
this year because it's super fun, and just being able to see what made it through, see what's still around. Even the smaller ones now. If you find some that are 2.5 from this year, then that's
target bucks.
Yeah, target bucks next year, and having these sheds and being able to look at them, and it just kind of gives you a better feel for it too. And the knowledge of, that's another thing when you shoot one and you can actually score it, then you can go back and look at it on trail camera, and you can get better at scoring them too, and actually figuring out how big they are.
Mm-hmm. Every time I see a deer, I'm trying to score it in my head. Every time. No matter if it's pictures, on the road, just hunting. If a little one comes in, I'll try and calculate it all, because that's how you get better. That's how you tell a big deer.
And it helps when you actually get your hands on one, and then you can really see what they look like. And when you shot Blade Runner, nobody thought it was as big as it was.
Until they saw it.
once you saw it in person, right? You see pictures and whatever.
I was sending pictures. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's probably 140s." Came over to score it, and everyone's like, "Andy, who scored?" He's like, "He's a lot better than we thought."
Yeah, because
they added it up. So I didn't want to know, and
right. Because we taped it out. I just got out like the little trophy tape, whatever, just kind of like rough score it. And I wasn't really going through and like
being so precise.
Yeah, it was just to get a rough estimate. And I came up with like 160 something.
Like 160 on the head.
And I was like, I don't know, that feels a little too high. And I wasn't being super, but I'm only off by a couple of inches. It wasn't like I was off by 10 inches and I like added a whole extra roll of tape.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that we were within the ballpark, and so then I remember they rolled up, and I was like, it might be close to 160. It's pushing that, and no way. And when you finally score it and add it all up, you're like, holy crap, because that was just a really big deer.
His beams were 25 and 23.
Right, those main beams coming all the way and coming all the way across.
He had a lot of mass. That's what helped too.
Yeah, he did.
So
he did. It was really cool. He still had like some cedar or something in his right down by his brows there.
Right by the bases, yeah. That was cool. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to get him back within a couple more months. The guy I took it to said 6 to 9 months, so I'm hoping.
Right.
I'm excited.
And I mean, you got him in there right away.
Yeah,
opening
I
day.
was the first one in there, so.
Right, so hopefully he's at the top of the list.
Yep.
And that'll be coming up soon. I wish you still had him. I wish you had the skull plate.
So did I.
With his.
I never asked for it, and I don't know if this is a new taxidermy, so I don't know if he does it or not, but.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. And then keeping it out, we had to kind of wing our way through that, but figured it out.
We got her.
Yeah, it was all pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So after Blade Runner and then E.T., then comes gun season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when your cousin shoots another good one off the property.
Yep. My cousin Sean shoots opening day, shoots stubs. We call him stubs. Had him last year. I'm surprised we didn't find that deer sheds.
Yeah.
We had him last year. I'm almost positive it's him. We had him last year as no brow six. He's just a big 6-pointer with no brows. So he's 3-3. We passed him all the time. Thankfully, he made it through because he turned out to be what I think is 130, 135 inch deer with an inch and 2 inch brow.
Yeah, he was
super short.
He was a really good buck.
But we'll throw a picture up. But that was pretty cool. Opening day, he comes through. My cousin gets a crack at him, so that was really cool. And after that, it kind of just dwindled down, honestly.
It did. But I mean,
that's what happens.
You shoot
gun hunting in Wisconsin is just crazy.
The pressure is crazy. It's unbelievable. But when you shoot 3 target bucks,
exactly,
like
it's a good year no matter what.
Yeah.
If just 1 target buck's a good year, and then to get 3,
right. But then that's 3 more bucks that you're not going to see on camera and you're not going to see out in the woods. So it's going to make it look like there's less.
That's true. And I'll take that back because my dad and I saw a good up-and-comer, which I'm almost positive is Freak's offspring.
Right.
Almost positive.
He'd have to get a little bit bigger, which hopefully he makes it through and gets it in the next year.
If I can find his sheds, I'll be able to tell for sure.
Yeah, maybe we'll find them. Well, Freak died this year. That was kind of sad.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid that.
When we found the sheds last year, Freak was way bigger than Blade Runner. So we thought this year, he was going to be much bigger, and I think it ended up that Blade Runner probably scored a lot more.
He scored way bigger.
But Freak was still just a really cool deer.
I think Blade Runner was a 4.5, and I think Freak was like a 5.5. Just because if you saw his body,
right,
just absolute unit of a deer.
Yeah.
And I knew he was going to die. I knew he'd get killed by us and the neighbors. The neighbors got him, but after I shot Blade Runner, I was out there during mid-October, and I saw Freak like 3 times. Just chasing does, bumping little bucks around. I'm telling my dad, I'm like, you guys gotta get out here. He's active. He's out here in the daytime. He's out here. We gotta go. Neighbors killed him. Yeah, whatever, but it was nice to see. It would have been cool if we got him, but they're just right across the property line that the neighbors killed him, so...
I mean, it's still a great sign, It means that things are going in the right direction out there. And
stinks finding his sheds and patterning them as much as we did and just following them. But it was cool to see him on the hoof. I mean, he was probably 20, 21 wide, which was really cool. But,
yeah. I mean, that's hunting. That's what happens. You got neighbors,
You can't do anything about it, which I got to learn more.
You can't build a fence around the place, so that's just kind of how it works. And it's all about how can you make your property the best one in the neighborhood and the place where they all want to be. And I mean, I think we've done that, and
We're getting there.
yeah, this summer we'll have some more
hard.
plans to keep it going. But
Mhm.
I mean, yeah,
So that's $4.
well, and you had a couple other nice ones.
Yeah. Apparently,
From the neighbors.
the neighbor shot like 2 or 3 other good ones. So that's almost 6 to 7 good deer.
Right, and you don't know.
I've
ones.
only know the 4 that I know: Freak, E.T., Blade Runner, and Stubbs. I don't know the other 3, what they look like or how big they were. So,
And there's still a couple running around out there.
yeah, I mean, Noah and I are going on muzzleloader tonight, so who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. But
And this will come out like a week later than what we're filming right now.
Yeah.
So by the time you're watching this, we might have already shot
Yeah.
one. Who knows? I mean, that's hoping for the best because I think there's a real possibility of it.
Yeah.
Because now,
there's no pressure.
right after gun season's over, everybody's done. Like I'm done. I'm not hunting anymore. And so once gun season's over, the pressure comes off, and then
I mean, I've never
you could come out.
muzzleloader hunted in my life, so it's going to be an experience.
It will.
Thanks to my Uncle Todd, he let me use his.
Yeah.
I have one, but it's older and a little sketchy with no scope, and I haven't shot it yet. So my uncle gave me his with the scope and everything. So we're gonna go out and give her a try, and who knows, maybe shoot another doe, or if we get lucky, a good buck might walk out. But
Yeah.
any day out in the woods is a good day.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We got some projects to do before that too, but yeah, we'll go over, I guess, my season. It's not a whole lot to talk about, although I had what I would consider a shooter, 2 different ones in bow range throughout the season, so I guess you can't really complain about that too much. Like I said, opening day, that kind of Blade Runner stole the show with that one. I don't think I saw a single deer up until that point, because then once you shoot them, then we're on the phone, and then that's all I care about. I'm excited about that, and I'm trying to make plans of, how can I get down there and see that deer. And so that opening weekend, that was kind of it for me. And we hunted pretty hard this year. We were going up at least every other weekend.
Most you've ever been up there, really.
Yeah, we were up there quite a bit. And this summer was not the best for pictures for us. Usually our summer is great, and we'll have like 3 shooters over the summer. And then once the fall rolls around and they kind of transition to their fall range, that's when we usually lose them. And we had a couple bucks that showed up in the summer for like a day or 2, and we'll put those up too. But the one had a drop tine.
Yeah, that's
like
cool.
I called him Medusa. That was just a super cool buck.
He all messed up on one side.
I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if any. I would think that if somebody shot him,
you would know.
We would find out about it.
They were there for like a week. There's like 3 or 4 good ones there for a week, and then they just kind of...
Well, there was 3 shooters in one picture that all came through on the same, like one foggy morning. They all came through,
which isn't uncommon for big bucks for bucks during the summer. They'll get
they could show up, but so then we never saw him again. So then I'm kind of thinking, well, I'd rather have him here in the fall than in the summer. So maybe that means they're kind of switching, and there's somewhere else in the summer, and they're going to come here in the fall. Mm-hmm. That never really happened. We had a couple bucks that kind of stuck around. We had one that was injured, and he must have got hit by a car or something. But his one, I think it was his back right hoof, is like the size of a softball.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know, maybe he got hit by a car and that's all that really got like lasting damage. Maybe it's something else. I really have no idea. But
you never ended up seeing him, did you?
Not in person.
Yeah.
But it would have happened like as he was developing, because he had one full side and then one side that was just like half. It just stopped in a certain spot, and it would have been pretty early on in the summer.
Which makes sense.
Right.
Usually when deer get hurt like that,
it's the opposite.
Yeah, which would make sense if his right leg got hurt, and his left side
So then
it's
it just doesn't.
It just.
I don't know why that happens, but that's usually what happens. You get hurt on one side, the other side doesn't grow, or it grows like crazy and weird.
Yeah.
And so that was a buck. He would have been really good, and I kind of wanted to shoot him because I didn't know how hurt he was.
You always want it. I mean, that's kind of the right thing to do. You see a deer that's hurt, you should.
And you could tell in some of the trail camera pictures, he wasn't setting his foot down. Like if he was standing stationary, he would pick it up. So it seems like he was probably pretty hurt.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he was going to really move that far. I thought he was going to lock in on a property and just stay there near some water and food, move as little as possible. And he ended up, we didn't see him for a long time. And then we thought, well, he's either dead someplace, somebody shot him, who knows. And then he shows back up like a month later for a couple days, and then he's gone. So I still don't know what happened to him either. I would think that if somebody shot him, we would have heard about that too. But I mean, I guess not. So I don't know what his deal is. I guess at this point, I hope he makes it through the winter.
Yeah.
Because you just don't want him to suffer.
Yeah.
I was hoping that somebody would get him if he was bad, and I was hoping we could see him at some point during the season to actually see, okay, is it just like a limp, but he's doing okay, or is he really, really
not using it at all?
So I was planning on shooting him if I saw him. It didn't end up happening. We had a couple other ones that were, nice for us. They're probably 2.5s, but that's on our property. That's as good as it's going to get for us. And I know there's, you can say what you want, and you can say, well, then you got to do your QDM better, whatever. But we had a neighbor shoot a spike this year, just right next to us. So it's like,
you can only do so much.
If the neighbors are shooting anything that walks, you just can't grow those deer to be that big. And we're still obviously trying and doing as best we can. But for us, a good 2.5 is pretty much as good as it gets. And we had a couple other ones. I had a couple. They both came into the same spot, and it was the last place I ever expected a deer to come from. And I remember we left branches up specifically because I could see out down a trail to the edge of the field, maybe 25 yards away, and we left those branches up because we thought, well, if a deer's coming down that trail, I want as much protection there so that they don't get spooked by me, and then they'll keep making their way. Well, they would get to that spot, and I think both times I could see my breath blowing right at them, like it was just going that direction.
You probably caught your grounds in too.
Yeah. And
that's where you walked in.
Right. And so they just get to that spot, stop, and run off. So I had a couple shooters within 25 yards and just couldn't really make it happen. I saw plenty of does and fawns. Our food plot turned out really nice this year.
Yeah, it did.
And I think they were eating off of that somewhat. I think some of the neighbors also have big food plots though, and that's hard to compete with. But my dad took a shot at one of those shooters. So he came past me first, bolted, and then he goes right down by my dad. My dad thought he was probably 50 yards or so, and he was using a crossbow and takes the shot, and it just goes right over top of his back. And so I don't know how it got messed up, if he was a little bit closer than he thought or what the deal was, but right over top the back. And then that's so tough too when a deer, gets bumped by me and then he gets shot at. It's hard for that deer to stick around that spot.
Yeah.
You're just teaching him too much, and so that sucked. I mean, I felt bad for him. I know he would have liked to shoot that one, and that was a good buck too.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really nice buck. Most people would have been happy to shoot that one. So we had some opportunities. It just we couldn't really connect, and I guess we'll see what's going to happen moving forward. Now we're kind of done with that property for the year, but we'll have to get up there in the spring and kind of get a plan together.
Yep.
See what we can do. I think I already I'm thinking about moving a food plot, doing something a little bit differently, setting stands up in different spots. So we got some ideas, and hopefully we can get a little bit better on that front, and I can start contributing to the buck videos a little bit here. But and I think we have a lot of does up there. I was definitely gonna shoot one, but it just never really materialized. I mean, there was one chance maybe with a gun, and she had I think what was 2 fawns with her, but they were like at that stage where they're almost as big as she is, but it was just the way that they were acting, and I think they had kind of a shorter nose
you
and
can tell
whatever.
by their snout.
So I think she was sending, maybe it was an older doe, a younger doe, and then a fawn.
Nubby, maybe.
Because, it was hard to tell, but the one that was the biggest, I could tell that was a doe, that was a big one, and she would send the smaller ones in by me first, and now I've got 3 sets of eyes on me, so I can't really move that much because at all times, at least one of them is looking at me or in my direction, so I got to be very careful about how I'm moving, and I ended up doing a good job of that. I never spooked them, but they kind of just kept moving along, and it just happened perfectly for that doe that I couldn't move enough to get in position, and she got lucky. But you guys took quite a few does so far.
We're big on shooting does just because the crop damage, and you get too many does, you don't see a lot of bucks.
Right. It hurts your rut. It hurts your crops.
I'm always pimping Noah to shoot does up at his land just because. So
well, now the more that you've shot, the better things
kind of starting to show results that are getting proven. And I shot that buck, and then I don't know, mid-October 12th, 16th maybe, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
I was up there by myself, and I was off school on a Monday. I shot a doe. That was pretty cool. You guys haven't seen that video yet, but it'll come out in a little bit. We're gonna have a bunch of them.
Yeah, we wanted to just pile them all up into one video and try to.
So I shot that one. You guys saw when my girlfriend Haley shot that one. That was not on my property, but so she shot that doe, which is pretty cool. Her first year. I shoot that doe, and I'm trying the rest of the year to keep shooting more does with the bow because then it'll improve the rut. I can never get it done. Noah and I went out and tried it a couple times. Almost got it done one night, but bucks were chasing her.
So I was shooting that night.
Yeah, you were in the driver's seat.
She was 10, 15 yards maybe, and
so you just need to take 2 steps.
Right.
2 steps, and then she
went
the wrong
That's
way.
how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how it is. But
so then gun season rolls around, and we got 2 bucks and 1 doe, and we kind of have a quota of if you shoot a buck, you should shoot. I don't know where I heard this from, but if you shoot 1 buck, you should probably shoot 2 does.
Yeah.
The ratio 1 to 2. So we have 2 bucks to 1 doe, which is we need at least 3 more does. Then my cousin shoots that buck opening night, so now we got 3 bucks to 1 doe, and we all passed up deer opening day. I passed up a bunch of does, but you don't really want to shoot them in the morning. I was gonna shoot one at night, but I never had a chance. So then we go through opening weekend. I shoot one. Monday night I shoot a doe. My uncle shoots a doe, so that's 2. You'll see that video. And then Tuesday night, we didn't get any. No, Tuesday night I was sitting with my dad. He shoots a doe, a really big doe. I should have probably shot another one that came out with it. So that's 3. So now we're at 3 to 4. And then I think my Uncle Todd shot one on his property, so that's not on ours. And then on a Friday morning, I think my Uncle Randy shot a doe. And then that same night, my uncle shot another one. So how many is that?
So that's 5 to 3, I believe. No, 5 to 4.
Oh, and then the other guy that hunts there shot a doe.
Yeah.
So that's 6.
So I think it's 6 does. I mean, you're getting a lot better there. It's hard to tell because what do you consider, right? We would consider Freak was still on yours. So now is that a 4th buck that has to be taken care of? Is it the neighbor's responsibility? But you said that the neighbors shot a couple does.
Yep, they shot a couple too, I know, so.
And they shot a couple bucks. I mean, at least having a 1-to-1 ratio is going to be good. And then if you can get above that, which it sounds like you're probably there, we're going to keep trying, tonight and whatever.
Some late season.
A couple more, so.
So obviously my dad and uncle are quite a bit older than me, so their style of hunting is a little different than ours. I'm more of just because I'm growing up in a different age where deer are totally, the hunting's different. I like to get in there. They like to play it safe. I like to get right after them. I like to shoot a lot of does. Just because I feel like I've watched enough videos and read enough stuff that it kind of is proven. It's starting to show that, and they're on board with that too, to shoot does. That the more does we shoot, the more bucks that stay, and the more deer we're going to see and shoot. And when you got so many deer, say you don't start shooting does, you got too many mouths to feed. So either they're not, the bigger bucks are going to leave. They're smart. They'll go find somewhere else to live where there's not a lot of deer, which hurts you, or they're going to start dying off, and you don't want that. Obviously, you'd rather take them and use the meat and whatnot, and so that's kind of also another reason we do that.
I mean, from some things that I've been seeing recently and just doing some research, like if you have 40 acres worth of woods, you can only hold so many deer on that property. I mean, think about it like if you exaggerate it, right? Say you were lining deer up side by side. There's still a limit, and obviously that's going to be way too many. So you can only hold so many deer no matter how big your property is. And from things that I've seen, it looks like if you've got like an older, mature doe, she's the queen.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if you got a big, mature buck. He doesn't want anything to do with her. She'll be mean to him. She'll bully him. It's kind of a misconception from what I'm seeing now that, like, those big bucks, they're not really king of the jungle, just pushing them around so much.
Then the one that my dad shot was definitely the biggest one. She was mature.
Yeah.
She came out with two other does that were pretty close in size, but she came out last. We were seeing them all year, but they're smart. They know the gun's a lot easier. With the bow, they know. They'll pick you right out of the tree. They're smart. They've been through this before, and so that was good. And another thing I tried to do is, I don't know if it's 100% true, but I read some things and heard some things that if you shoot a doe with a nubby, the nubby's going to stay. The nubby's more likely to stay, because if they say a doe has two nubbies, I've read that the nubbies will leave and go to a different property because they won't want to stay because of the chances of breeding with their mom. So the one I shot had a nubby. I think a couple other ones we shot had nubbies. So, I mean, it's starting to work too, because you see those nubbies by themselves, just like staying there, which is good. Because I know I kind of guess I see that it is starting to work now that they're staying around, which I think helps a lot. Not that I'm not going to shoot a doe if she doesn't have a nubby, but if you get the chance, I mean, that's probably one of the ones you want to take.
But another point that you made in there too is like how smart those mature does are. I'm probably more afraid of a smart doe than I am a smart buck, because those does, like, I think they're smarter. I think they're more on edge. All of a sudden, I've had it happen to me where I can't even see a doe and she's blowing at me.
Sometimes, yeah, I agree with that, because like the bucks, they're smart and they'll remember that, but they won't freak out like the does. Like the buck, he'll pick you off and he'll just keep going, and he knows not to come back there. Like he knows he'll just stay out of there for a while or know something's up.
And the stupid thing is, does will freak out and then they'll still come back.
And they'll stand there and they will just make the loudest noise ever. They'll blow, they'll pound at you, they'll let every other deer in the woods know that, hey, don't come over here.
Right.
And they just kind of ruin your hunt. But
and then the next day they'll show back up again.
And they'll do the same thing.
Yeah. So I definitely see the advantages of shooting mature does like that too. I mean, you want to have does around, but younger does are still going to be better.
You gotta see when the fawn. If there's a ton of fawns, those are just going to be does next year. So
right, yeah. And so this year, you and I each hunted. Probably, I mean, you haven't been dating Haley for as long. You guys started dating in the summer, so you haven't had other seasons. But I've never really hunted with Gabby very much. So this year I hunted with her quite a bit. You hunted with Haley quite a bit.
Yeah, after I shot that buck, Haley and I probably hunted 7 or 8 times.
And we each saw
like
3.5-year-old bucks.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so when I was hunting, before I even hunted with Gabby, she went out on her own, because her brother was driving to school and said that he saw a nice buck cross the street and come like over onto maybe not onto their property, but right around there. Just right out of his driveway going down the road, and he sees a big buck. So Gabby hunts that night, and she's sitting up in their tower stand, and this is still bow season, and she sees him, and her phone's dying, so
it's cold.
Yeah, so now she can't text me for like an hour. There's still like an hour and a half for daylight left. And she sees this really big buck. And she likes to tell stories a lot, so you never know, like, is it really that big? I knew for sure that it was probably, like, I knew it was a nice buck. Like, it probably at least had to be a 2.5-year-old buck one that I would shoot for sure, but I didn't know how big it was. So then the next night, she wants me to come with her. I go with her, bring the camera, and sure enough, he shows up. Yeah. There he is. And he's an absolute stud. He was, I would say, for sure 3.5.
Yeah,
and
I put him in the 120s.
Yeah, I mean, he was...
Hard to tell on camera, but
he was a great buck.
Yeah.
Anybody would be happy to shoot that buck.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes kind of across the field. Now we're sitting in a separate spot that's a little bit closer to where she saw him in that field. And there's a nub buck out there as well. So this is getting pretty close to the rut. Maybe we're kind of in the rut. And so when he comes out into that field, he sees that nub buck, and he can't tell if it's a buck or a doe. And so he was kind of making his way towards us, and then once he sees that, he's got to go check it out.
Yeah.
He gets down there, circles around the deer, realizes it's a buck. Now he's all embarrassed, so he kind of runs away, tucks into the woods, and then he comes back out maybe half hour, 45 minutes later, and again, he's coming kind of towards us, and it got dark. He turned off the other way. Didn't really happen. We should have had a decoy out that night, but it can be dangerous to hunt with a decoy.
It's either going to work or it's not.
Right, because the issue is really, again, those does.
Yeah.
The buck doesn't care, but if does see a decoy, they freak out about it.
They know they're going to go check it out because they're like bucks. Like, oh, who's the new doe? Who's the new girl in town? And
yeah.
They go check it out, and they figure out, this isn't real. And
right. And so
the whole woods knows that there's something wrong.
Exactly. And having not hunted with her in that spot before, I was like, well,
you didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, should we bring the decoy out there? Because that's such a big risk. And if he's around, I don't want to spook him right away. Like, let's just get in there, see what's happening. I didn't know how much he was rutting or responding to calls. She just saw him and didn't really know what was going on. And I think she said there was a doe with him at the time. He might have been kind of with her.
Makes sense.
And so then I think if we had a decoy, he's probably dead meat.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we were thinking, well, that's 2 nights in a row that we've seen him. He's clearly around. He's checking the fields. He's rutting. So we'll just go out the next night, bring a decoy. Problem solved. We'll be fine. Well, it just didn't really work out that way. We never saw him again.
Yeah.
No idea if the neighbors got him, if he's still around. The neighbors did shoot an absolute
freak
monster.
Yeah, that's a big deer.
How big do you think that deer is?
160s, 170s for sure.
Yeah.
Easy.
I mean, I would almost venture to say he might be 180. Not seeing him in person, it's hard to tell.
He's in the 170s for sure.
What it looks like, I mean, he's an absolute monster. And I guess the neighbor said he's got a couple more running around too. Yeah. So that's another place that this summer we're going to try to get in there, improve it as much as we can, and maybe try and connect on one of those bigger bucks if they're around there. So.
And I totally forgot that alien I saw.
Yeah, I know you guys had.
We were out there on, I think it was their birthday. Yeah, I think we were out there on their birthday.
So, yeah.
And we're sitting. It's cold. It's like 30 degrees with a northwest wind, like 15 miles an hour. So it's freezing.
And it's still like rut.
Yeah, it's still rut. And we saw a couple does come through, a couple big does, and we're sitting in a 2-man stand, and I'm like, I don't know. I sit on the left and she sit on the right. Same stand, shadow doe. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like you should come. I feel like we should switch because I feel like these deer are gonna come out to the left of us, and I think you get a better shot because she's using a crossbow, so she can't really shoot that far. Or I shouldn't say far, but she can't like lean over and shoot.
Right.
And sure enough, I said, let's switch. Like, no. Sure enough, 10 minutes left. This big block. Also, I look behind me. He's coming 25 yards in some thick stuff, and I'm like, oh boy. Comes in, makes a scrape. Peas in it, makes a rub, and he's standing there, and I'm just grunting, snort wheezing, just giving him the business, and he does not want anything to do with us. And she's like leaned over, and I'm like sucked in, leaning forward back. I'm like, if he comes out, just make sure nothing's in the cam and you can shoot. Just make sure none of my strings or anything are in there, and just let him shoot him. Never came out. I think that if we would have switched, he probably would have got a shot at him. He was, I think he was a 9. I think he was busted. I think he might have broke a brow tiner or a G4 or something like that. But he was a really good deer for her for first one, and anybody really. He was for sure a 2.5, maybe a 3.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he might have been a 3.5 as well.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see that deer.
Right. I mean, just to see like those two being both so mature, like it wasn't just like, oh yeah, we saw a couple year and a halves. Like those were real, legitimate shooters that anybody would want to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool, and it would have been nice to connect on that, but still getting to see them and sharing that memory, and then we got them both on camera too. That's another one that we put some of the footage in of the one that Gabby and I saw. I don't think we have anything in for yours. We might put that in the doe video, so we can check that out there, and I can throw some in on this podcast as well too. But so that just getting it on camera like that and being able to go rewatch it, and then sharing the stories, right? Because then we come in and everybody's like, "Oh, how big is it? How big is it?" Because nobody had seen it previously. It was just Gabby and her telling the story, and then you see it on camera, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah." Like you weren't lying. That was a really, really nice buck.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so I mean, I guess Blade Runner, that video's out, did really well. I think as of recording, we're over 9,000 views. So happy with that. The E.T. video is out, so you can go check that one out. And all of that hectic stuff that was going on, like we didn't cut any of that out. We didn't edit it down. Literally from the time like the camera starts rolling to the time he shoots it, that's exactly how it happened. So getting to watch that, that's pretty cool too. So if you want to check that one out, that's out there. Some of these other bucks we're talking about, especially like the one your cousin shot and whatever, some of them that we're seeing, I think we're going to wrap those all into a doe video that's going to be coming out later this year.
We just kind of season recap.
Yeah, we want to get to the end of the season, and then we can put everything in. Who knows what happens tonight or any other time. We'll throw that all in there. So then there'll be some more footage there. What else we got? I mean, obviously there'll be some shed hunting again this winter.
Spearing, rabbits.
Spearing is I'm really excited for that. That's going to be another big one.
Rabbits. We'll get out there. Squirrels, rabbits, crows. Who knows? Anything that's open, we'll probably go hunt it.
Yeah, I mean it's starting to slow down now for the deer season, but it's not fully over. Anything can happen. We still have a couple chances out there, and
overtime right now.
Yeah, we'll get some more footage out there to you. We have another special video that I'm not going to say what it's about or what's going to happen, but it's going to be pretty cool. It's something that we've never done before.
Won't happen again on our channel for a while.
Yeah, probably not.
Different to our channel. It's not something we would normally do.
But it'll take a lot. But I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be really cool.
Hopefully
we can film it all.
January-ish.
Yeah, there's some logistics and stuff to still figure out with getting the footage and all that, but we're gonna make it happen.
Yep.
That's gonna be really cool. Watch out for that one. That's gonna be a big video. But yeah, other than that, man, I think that's about it. I'm excited for where we're going.
Me too.
Dude, we're gonna have hats soon.
Yeah, we are.
We're gonna have hats. We might, we won't have them by the time this video comes out, but we're gonna have an order placed, so they're gonna be on their way, and then we'll put that out. So watch for that on Instagram or.
Yeah, we're working, trying to figure out the best way for sweatshirts and stuff, and we're trial and error, but we're getting there.
We're trying to get the merch out. We're trying to get a website together. The website's a whole other animal. That's not working that great, but the hats, I'm pretty excited about.
We're coming work like they should.
Right, we're partnering up with a big company. They have hats and shields. I just went and saw them in shields the other day.
They do a lot of like the newer hats. So
yeah, it's a pretty cool design. I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see how that turns out. So watch for that to come out as well. But other than that, we're just gonna keep doing our thing, and put as much content out as we possibly can. So
we appreciate it. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers, which is a pretty big milestone for us.
Yeah.
We really didn't know what to expect when we started this, whether it was going to be kind of a fluke or a takeoff, and it's slowly going, and we're starting to get some better videos out, and we're learning, we're getting new cameras, we're getting just anything that helps, and we love doing it, and I think that's kind of a big deal for us that we're almost at 1,000, and who knows where it'll go from there.
Right, we're getting there, and we're just trying to get better and better and put out better content for everybody that's watching, and we're
having fun.
Yeah, we're having fun.
We love doing it, so might as well share it and film it.
Absolutely.
That's what I love.
Yeah, and we couldn't do it without everybody that's watching and supporting us. hitting the like button, leaving comments. We appreciate all of that stuff, and subscribing to the channel and checking out all of these great videos that we're talking about and sharing all the memories with us. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.